This episode is sponsored by Student Growth Partners, your trusted partner in helping universities grow their enrollments. If you enjoy this podcast, please like, subscribe, and share it with friends who might find it valuable. Your support helps us reach more listeners and continue bringing you expert insights from the world of higher education. Welcome to the latest episode of the Enrollment Clinic. My guest today is Liesl Riddle. She is the Dean of College of Professional Studies. She oversees over 20 bachelor's and master's completion programs. Also, she is in charge of the Graduate School of Political Management and Center for Excellence in Public Leadership. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thanks for being here. And I've followed a lot of the work that you've done in the past year and a half, 2 years here at George Washington University. And one of the things that I have noticed is the new Catalyst campaign, because you can't miss it. You go into a metro, you see pictures everywhere. And also there's this new podcasts coming in. And I just feel like there's a lot of movement from just programmatic approach to graduate studies to kind of overarching branding awareness of it. Tell me a little bit about the strategy behind it.
Well, thank you for asking. And let me tell you, for our marketers' ears, to hear that it is everywhere and you perceive it that way is, as you all, music to our ears. But absolutely, I mean, I think one of the things that was clear when I came into the college, and I heard from our faculty and our staff, and even some of our students, and definitely alumni, it's like no one knows this wonderful place exists, right? Or what this is. Like, what is? People know what a school of business is. That's where I started off my career in schools of business, but they don't really necessarily know what colleges or schools of professional studies do. So I think we had a big challenge on our hands, I think, both in terms of the internal university community, but also our external market, to kind of get over the hurdle of A, what is College of Professional Studies? What is professional studies? And two, what makes GW's College of Professional Studies unique? So we to kind of begin the Catalyst campaign concept, we wanted to dig deep, and it became part and parcel and really an outgrowth of our strategic planning process. So I spent my first year here listening, doing lots of surveys and focus groups, hired a wonderful consultant to help us with that. And it was really very clear that there were certain values that really captured what the College of Professional Studies is really all about here at GW. And one of the main key things is transformation, right? That we want to transform the careers of our students to have them and really realize their potential as leaders in the field and really make an economic and social impact. So with that, one piece of our big set of values, we then went into looking for a new ad agency to help us really capture that spirit. And our new ad agency, Humble and Wallop, and our new MediaWorks media placement company, the two of them work, I think, very well at bringing this campaign to life in the market. And let me explain to you a little bit about the sort of the ways this has impacted what we do and who we are. First and foremost, it has raised awareness, right? Like you say, it's everywhere. I get emails and texts. I love posting those on social media. People saying, "Oh, I saw it on a bus today," but also nationwide. So for our Graduate School of Political Management, we draw nationwide, really internationally. And our commercial that we have featured on a lot of streaming services really features our board of advisors who come from all different fields in the area of politics. And it is really funny because several of our board of advisors have been recognized on the street, right? So one of them says, "Oh, I went to go to the bank the other day and my bank teller recognized me from a commercial she had seen the night before." And another fellow said, "My friend called me from California and said, 'You're on my TV right now.'"
I'm sure they love it too.
Oh, they do. They do. And who wouldn't, right?
Right.
But I think really that so awareness is a big part of this game, particularly in a College of Professional Studies where people aren't necessarily looking for you to begin with as just an organizational forum. but it's also really had an impact in enrollments in just a pretty short period of time. I mean, we launched the Catalyst campaign mid-September last year.
Mm,
And so you can kind of start to see the results of that showing up in fall enrollments. All across the enrollment pipeline, we were up year over year. But the
mm,
number that makes us all really smile is that our course registrations for new students is up 22% year over year. And as we all know, professional students often have a longer time horizon from inquiry to actual commitment. And so we hope and believe that this is just really the beginning of the impact of the Catalyst campaign.
So what, because this is a very good segue, this last kind of data point that you just pointed out with adult learners. What was the kind of process, the thinking behind it? What was some of the research, and why, for example, did you choose the tagline, "Great minds shouldn't think alike"? Right? Like, because that's the hardest part to do. You can do all the research, but then sometimes you miss that what really is the lead.
Well, I'm so glad you asked that. What's really, I think, so brilliant about Great Minds Shouldn't Think Alike really captures almost like an onion, layers of
Mm,
who we are and who we want to be. And let me explain. I think at its very core, part of that onion is this idea of we are a place that welcomes and encourages diversity. And when I mean by diversity, I mean diversity of all kinds. First, industry diversity. I mean, if you look at our college, we have everything from cybersecurity, IT, homeland security, to sustainable urban planning and publishing and paralegal studies, to all of our many political programs. And so I think in many ways, we are many different industries all in one housed in one school. So I think that's one piece of it. I think secondly, we also want to welcome learners from all different kinds of backgrounds. Our
mm,
bachelor completion programs, for example, draw in recent graduates from community colleges. They
mm,
draw adult learners who either finished an associate's degree, went to work, and now are coming back, or those that went to a four-year college and didn't complete and are coming back. We have a lot of enlisted military who are, started their college careers in the military, now are veterans and are coming into the classroom. So we have students from all different kinds of backgrounds throughout our college,
mm,
and we want to encourage that. I think the next layer of the onion, though, is really important, is that in a college of professional studies, one of the things you get is a very rich peer environment, as
mm,
well as instructor environment and professor environment. And let me explain by that. Most of our students are working professionals. They have some years under their belt in either that field or another field. And I think the conversations that happen in these classrooms themselves are transformative. And students and alumni tell me this all the time, because you come into contact with people that may be at different places in the industry, different stages of their career, or a whole different industry in and of itself. So that peer learning, I think, is a very important benefit of coming to a professional studies school. And of course, our faculty are what I like to call pracademics, right? They're
mm,
people either who are traditional academics, but focus their research and their theory on very applied settings and methodologies, or they're adjuncts who have been doing this in the field for a long time and now are coming back to sort of share that expertise. And that it's that mix, I think, also that makes our School of Professional Studies very, very special. And of course, last but not least, when you have a graduate school of political management, particularly in today's environment, we really believe in the graduate school to emphasize the importance and the value of bipartisanship.
mm.
And great minds shouldn't think alike, but they should collaborate. They should listen to one another and make progress together. So for all of those many, many reasons, this tag seemed to make the most sense for us.
And I think it fits perfectly both with the city and with the current environment we're in, right?
Yes.
Now, I don't want you to kind of go ahead and spill the beans because I don't know how far you are in this process, but I'd love to learn more about RevU.
No, absolutely. We changed our moniker several years ago to the Revolutionaries. And so many you'll see her at the basketball games, right? Everybody says rev up. Well, so we now have RevU. So Rev Up for RevU, Revolutionary University. And what we are really thinking about in terms of adult learners and really learners in general is that we need to start thinking differently about some of the things that we do in higher education to meet evolving needs. I think first, speaking of adult learners, I had this idea that we needed to start to find ways to reach that adult learner in ways others might not be, but that they can do on their own time. And our faculty already were doing things called program samplers.
Mm,
And what that was literally was kind of an online experience where a student can kind of come in and experience the course, not the actual course with students enrolled, but a model of the course that allows the student to get some lectures, experience some of the faculty director, do a couple of, interesting assignments or activities, maybe even, engage in a discussion board on the topic, but just sort of really experience the
mm,
classroom before they committed.
mm,
And that goes deeper, really, than what you can even get on the website. It goes deeper than even what you can get in just a conversation with a faculty director. It really allows you to kind of try that on at your own pace and time. So RevU will actually include a series of course samplers for all of our degree programs. So students can go on and experience some of these incredible degree programs and the expertise in them for free and try before they commit. But secondly, and really almost more importantly, we also thought about the idea that we need to be expanding our non-degree offerings at the university and in our college in particular, so that we can reach our current audiences and new audiences in a different way with smaller, up-to-date, market-demanded skills and knowledge. And so that's really where the second part of our platform that will evolve over coming months. We will be launching micro-credentials that do exactly that and
mm.
allow us to leverage the unique expertise that we have across programs as well as within. So Monday, October 14th, 2024, coming to the internet near you will be RevU,
All right.
and you will be able to sign up for our very first micro-credential in election security,
Did
which
did
brings our expertise in cybersecurity, homeland, and political management together.
did we just break this news here?
We broke this news here.
Fantastic. So let me ask you a quick question. How will RevU differentiate, from example, from a Coursera or say an edX? If I understood correctly what the platform would be like.
Absolutely. In many cases, there are certainly similarities, right? There will be content on this platform that is 100% asynchronous.
Mm,
But we will be going beyond that in many of our programs. Our second micro-credential, which I'm not going to quite break so soon, which will come at the end of October, but will be in the field of Homeland Security, is a good example of this, because there's certain things that are best learned with a mix of modalities, right? So some of the things you'll see on RevU will be 100% asynchronous. Others will be asynchronous with a piece of synchronous online or pieces
mm,
of synchronous online. And others, there'll be an asynchronous component that then complements an in-person component that happens either in parallel or after or before. So we
mm.
really start with like, what does the learner need to know? And then how do we best structure the modality around that while also keeping, our learners' needs and preferences in mind.
Mm. I would love, I mean, product development is actually one of the areas that I love looking into. So what's the process like to come up with some of these programs, some of these, for example, these online classes for RevU? How do you kind of go about and figure out what really is the need out there and what it is that we can offer and be the best at it?
I think there are different things you can do in a different parts of your product development life cycle. I mean, for this initial launch, we already were offering inside our classroom modules that we often said, this would be really great to kind of spin out for continuing education. we had alumni that would say to me, they would look at, the new curriculum or talk to the students about what they're learning. They're like, oh, I wish I had a course on that. Right.
Mm.
So we thought, oh, this could be a really interesting thing to take this kind of module and roll it out for alumni and others like them that just this wasn't covered, when they were, in university. So there's that kind of idea of, why don't we go with the low-hanging fruit and leverage some of our greatest hits, but are the more updated greatest hits, and kind of put them out there. So that's a piece. I think a second piece is, and honestly, this is kind of where election security kind of comes from. It's also listening to what are the faculty across programs talking about. Again, very diverse faculty from different fields, but where are their shared interests, and where can they maybe kind of come together as they did with this micro-credential, and really create almost something very bespoke, because it is a mix and a blend of the strengths of the college or the university. And last, and of course, certainly not least, market research informed
Yeah.
credentials. I think in anything that we do, making sure you have a good, strong market research partner. We partner with a firm right now called Modern,
Mm.
that really understands the micro-credential industry and also helps us make partnership with industry partners, which is so important in the micro-credential space, both as co-content creators, but also to help open up new markets.
Mm. So one of the things I wanted to go back a little bit to some of the one thing that we were discussing earlier, specifically diversity in continuing education. So I was looking at some research, and it's kind of striking, right? Because
Mm.
there's been such a huge shift between women and men in terms of education, the approach of education, the number of degrees that are being achieved. And for example, I was looking at something where it said that 54% of women have tertiary degrees, and that compares to only about 32% of men. And there's also been a decline in the number of males attending these higher ed and also secondary and tertiary degrees. Is that something that you are looking into in your program at GW, and how do you tackle something like that?
Well, it's so interesting because I think it also depends what fields we're talking about. So in our College of
Mm,
Professional Studies, our degree programs are so industry specific. Gender issues are industry specific.
that's true.
So for example, cybersecurity, this is a big topic of conversation because the bulk of cybersecurity professionals, particularly in leadership roles, are white men. Now that's
Mm,
changing, and that's
mm,
changing rapidly. And there
mm,
is increasingly more people of color, there's increasingly more women in these roles. But it's one of the reasons why we just announced yesterday our partnership with the Cyber Guild, which is an
right.
organization that promotes women in cybersecurity. And we are really working ourselves on making sure that we are attracting more women into our cyber programs, into our Homeland and our IT programs, where these are fields where women are less predominant. And there are a lot of women career switching into
Mm,
these fields as well. So I think it depends on the industry. But to address your specific question about men, I think this is also an important reason why colleges of professional studies in particular, but universities more generally, really need to partner closely with industry. Because some of that research points to the fact that one of the reasons we're not seeing men necessarily show up in some of these degree programs is that they are very career focused, very job focused. So we need to meet the learner where they are. And one of the conversations I've been having with a lot of industry leaders, particularly in fast moving industries like cyber, like AI, for example, or IT, the idea that you might lose an employee is going to become even more expensive in these industries
mm,
as threat environments, threat actors, threat environments, and the way of tackling these problems is changing dramatically almost overnight. You
mm,
don't have time to bring on new talent
mm,
and onboard them. You need institutional knowledge. You need social networks within organizations to be able to respond rapidly and diffuse innovation quickly. So it's really, I think, increasingly more of an interest of employers to ensure that their workers, men and women, are upskilling and reskilling accordingly. and going beyond these tuition remission programs, which work to varying degrees.
Mm,
A lot of folks find the degree after work on the weekends daunting, particularly when they have kids at home and other kinds of responsibilities, taking care of aging parents and other family members. So why not think about learning as part of the job? Why
mm,
not build into performance systems this idea of what are you going to learn, right? What are you
yeah.
going to learn? And then let's measure how well you did that. So it matters that you show up in class, you learn, you integrate this knowledge into your role, and you can speak to how that learning helps you do your current job or the next
Mm,
job better. Why not do an earn and learn model? Now it's,
mm.
this is where this new relationship with employers, or a deeper, I should say, relationship with employers and universities, I think is needed. But it's in employers' best interests.
Yeah, and I think this ability to learn is going to become much more important, specifically now with AI, who I feel like is going to make a lot of these jobs that are current are going to be obsolete. And for example, you at a professional studies level, how do you take that in consideration when you're preparing the new cohorts of students for jobs of the future?
I think it's important. Generative AI just has to be something that we start really, in many ways, we're already doing. In other ways, we need to integrate it in other programs. But I think it needs to be integrated across the board. There will be skills related to generative AI that pretty much no matter what industry you're in, you need to know, right?
Mm,
And I think a lot of the young people are learning that on their own and sharing information, about how to use these different tools and how to get what you need out of these tools in very efficient and effective ways. But that may not be true for everyone from different backgrounds, especially from different age cohorts. And so I think generative AI general skills I can see being something that you integrate across the board and that you really emphasize in your continuing education programming. But I also think there are really some unique intersections between generative AI and industries. I just sat in yesterday. We have this wonderful conference on ethics in publishing. We had our 14th annual conference yesterday. Over 700 people attended online and in person. And I sat in on the AI and publishing conversation, and I was just astounded at some of the really interesting ways that publishing is already using AI, but what it's also preparing for. So I think professional study schools also need to look at that intersection effect between industry and AI in general and generative AI in particular.
mm. Now, thank you so much. I mean, we're coming to kind of the end of this session. I have one question for you. So, what do you think education will look like in the next 10 years, specifically higher education, secondary, tertiary degrees?
I think that, first of all, we're going to finally break the barrier between non-degree and degree learning. We're going to break the barrier between professional learning, on-the-job learning, and degree earning. That it just has to happen.
Mm,
I think more learning you're going to see very stackable systems in very micro ways where people might take micro-credentials that then stack up into a certain amount of hours for degree programs. Courses themselves on campus, some may remain the 6 hour, the 4 hour, the 3 credit hour, but others are going to be much more smaller and much more targeted. And your degree programs will have more, I think, of a complexity of hours that a student spends in them. I think that's very important because I think we've tried to fit every topic into a 3 credit or 6 credit, whatever your model is.
mm,
But instead, we need to go back to what does the student need to learn? How long does it
mm,
take to learn it? What is the right modality or modality combination to do that? So I think we're going to see now that's going to put a lot of burden on administration to manage all of that newfound complexity. But we will have AI there to help us
yeah.
do that and create course scheduling and other kinds of and course degree mapping with these more complex systems that meet industry needs. This will also allow learners, I think, to more custom tailor their interests, their needs, and match it better with their experiences coming into higher education.
Yeah. And I know I told you that was the last question, but I wanted just a quick follow-up because I feel like the ability to change from a higher institution, higher education institution, sometimes is always inhibited by your accreditor, right? There are certain rules that the accreditor has in place for you to be able to launch programs. They have to be evaluated from
That's
them.
right.
I feel like that's kind of a barrier. Do you feel like the accreditation system is going to change, or it has to evolve in order for schools to be faster at responding to customer needs, right?
I think accreditation systems already are, and they're getting, I think they already have leadership in place that is really trying to figure this out, but they have a very clear eye to make sure we're not sacrificing quality in the
Mm.
name of expediency. But I also think there's a huge grassroots movement coming a lot from professional studies schools, but also from other areas around universities, really pushing for some of this change and really demanding that of the accreditors that they are a member of. And so I think it's really important to have someone, if not many people on your team in a university that really have that detailed knowledge about the accreditation process and are in conversation with the accrediting bodies, and speak up and be a member, because ultimately this is a conversation between those that they are accrediting and the accrediting bodies.
Awesome. Thank you very, very much. Very, very, very much. Where can people find you?
Oh, you can find us at cps.gwu.edu, but also you can find us at revu.gwu.edu. Thank
Awesome.
you very much.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Mhm.